And for attendees that are joining, we're still a couple minutes out until the rest of our folks join us, but we'll get started here soon.
Hello.
Hi, Jermaine. Hi, Emily.
How are
Just
you?
waiting for some more folks to join us. We are currently recording and the attendees can hear us, just as an FYI.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm gonna go on mute for a second.
Chelsea and Emily.
Hi, Lucinda.
Hi, sorry, we're having internet connection issues, so I'm on by phone.
I heard that there was some sort of outage. We're still waiting for folks to join. We do have a few attendees listening, and we'll get started here in a few minutes.
Cool, thank you.
Welcome, Park. We're just waiting for folks to join. We'll get started in a few minutes.
Hi.
Welcome, Izzy. We're just waiting for a few more folks to join, and we'll get started here in a couple minutes.
Okay. I might have to hop off a little bit before 5. We're in the process of interviewing for a new executive director, and we have some interviews coming up at 5 and 6. So I might have to hop off a little bit early, just FYI.
Okay, great. Thanks for that heads up. We'll be sure to get your thoughts in first.
Thanks.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started, and we can let other folks join us as they come in. I'm Chelsea Ongaro. I'm your facilitator tonight. I know you all have met each other. Emily Benoit is taking notes for us tonight, and then Lucinda is the phone number that's here. She's also here to listen tonight. So we have 3 high-level questions we're going to talk through. We have about 45 minutes. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on the first 2 questions, and then about 5 minutes on the last question. It's a bit shorter. We have a Google Doc here. I'm going to share my screen, and it has the questions in it. And Emily's going to be taking notes for us. And then after we finish up, I'll be reporting out to the group along with the other 2 group facilitators. So I'm going to share my screen now, and y'all can let me know if you can see it. Okay, can you see that? Is it big enough? Okay, great. Okay, so it looks like we currently have Park, Izzy, and Jermaine. And I just want to double check that we don't have anyone else waiting. Oh, James is here as well. Hi, James. Can we just do a quick mic check? Park, can you hear me? And can I hear you?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Awesome. Izzy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Emily?
Yep, I can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, Jermaine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. Lucinda?
I can hear you.
Awesome. James?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Awesome. I think we're ready to go. So our first question sort of focuses on the objectives and tools and who we engaged during the I-205 engagement period. And that can all be found in the I-205 Toll Project Engagement Plan. There was also a shorter methods summary that was only a couple pages that had some of that information in it as well. The first question focuses on objectives. So we really want to talk about, do we have the right objectives? If the answer is no, what did we miss? And copied here are the objectives from that I-205 Toll Project Engagement Plan. So just wanting to get the conversation started. Happy to keep this free flowing. We can pause and check in sort of as we're going. Does anybody want to take the first step?
I have a quick thought as I'm just going through this, increasing the awareness. I see the benefits of tolls, and I'm in that category. I'm just thinking the age we live in with like disinformation and social media and people sharing things. I wonder if it'd be good to include some of the potential drawbacks or challenges. And so that way folks have all the information and there isn't, false information floating around through social media, through communities, scaring folks more. So I was wondering, it might be good to include both sides of the coin. Not to control the narrative, but just to make sure information and narrative out there is correct and accurate. So.
Yeah, I think to go right along with that, it's kind of like sharing the cost benefit analysis. I think that's what's missing.
Great. Any other areas where we'd want to increase awareness or different topics we'd want to touch on?
Another question I have is like, and maybe this is getting too fine grained, but like how modern toll systems work, like how much detail would you all be going into that? Is it just like a brief overview, or is it kind of like, here are the potential options? It could be congestion pricing based on a time of day. Just wondering how much in detail, because sometimes when the folks, including myself, you're like tolling, it's like, oh, it's the same price all day long, or that might not be the case. So.
Yeah, well, again, I'm gonna spark from what you said, Ismail. I think it would be really great if they were able to give like some type of an example, like we want to do a tolling system like London's used, or something. Where are we trying to copy? Where are we going with this?
I would like to see, like then what's the effect? So if we go and see like what is they doing in Houston or wherever they doing, what's the effect on the community as well? Like we see the example, this is the model, but what's the effect is kind of what I would love to see.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Park, did you have anything to add?
No, I think I agree with what's been said. The question we're asked right now is, do we have the right objectives? And I don't have a problem with the objectives, but I think it was real difficult for people to respond when they didn't know what the cost was, what the money would be spent on, what changes would happen with TriMet and other transportation alternatives that supposedly are needed. So people were having to respond philosophically rather than based on a specific list of facts.
Yeah, I would jump on top of that. It's like there was no vision. There's no like, here's where we're going, There was no vision.
Okay. So the other objective was the pieces that we wanted to gather input on. Any specific thoughts? It sounds like vision is something we'd want to add there. Other specific thoughts around, like, were these the right things to ask at the right time? Are there more things that we want to ask about?
My thinking is the stuff that we've talked about here, it's kind of like go back to the public and say, hey, we've listened to you, and give that vision with, you know, some understanding. So then people, to Park's point, they're, you know, we're talking about smart people. They have something that they are actually reacting to, instead of here's a lot of different jargon that people aren't really rooted in, and they're coming to their own conclusions. And I think most people, when they come to their own conclusion, they would rather stay with the status quo.
I totally second that 100, because I know we got like information like historic is going to affect who is going to affect, but coming with facts is kind of going to show. Then I think the survey maybe need to be approached in a different kind of way once we know the facts, and I think you probably will get different results.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move us down to the next part of this question. We can always come back up if thoughts come up around objectives at any time. So I'm scrolling us down. So the next question is about who we talk to. So did we identify the right voices? If the answer is no, what did we miss? These are the audiences from the I-205 Toll Project Engagement Plan. And there's a note here. We've previously discussed people living with a disability and engaging those folks. So we just wanted to be sure to note that, since you all have said that previously. But are there other folks we should engage? Should we focus more on some folks in this list?
I think that the thing that I think I didn't hear in the engagement that I think might be very helpful is how you engage. And so when you're engaging, let's say, with professional people, great, you know, like policymakers and so forth, I think you probably have that down pretty tight. But if you want to get community engagement and you say, well, we want to try and go to community leaders and so forth, well, there's one thing getting the organizational leader to say, yeah, that sounds good. The more difficult, the deeper route is how can actually partnering with agencies and organizations on more of a longer term basis. So you're much more of a partner to that community group or so forth. So then when you do come up with, you know, different initiatives or changes and that sort of thing, they're already partnered with you. And it's more than just like, oh, we cut a check so we can put our name on a fundraiser. I think the partnering really needs to be much more of an engagement on the actual work that they're doing. And I think that's what's missing here. And I don't know how to put that onto a bullet point.
Emily will do her best. Ismail, Jermaine, Park, anything?
I'm totally agreeing with James. I think it's like, how do you engage deeper with the community instead of like the community partners, because we all have a different titles we wear, right? And I think like even that I-5-205 commute, I think that's a very interesting commute, because you got anything from like 257th and back, that's the 205 commute, right? Like it's a commute to get on 205 to go either way, right? You're not gonna go past 205 to get to I-5. You're gonna do all your transactions on 205.
With the regard to individuals with a disability, you've got a number of transportation options taxi cabs and Uber and Lyft that are for-profit, but are very, very important to many people who are unable to drive or ride the bus. And then you have senior centers and Ride Connection and a whole lot of nonprofit organizations that are providing transportation, and individuals carpooling with people who can't drive. So there's a variety of groups assisting people with disabilities that all relate to transportation and what happens if we have tolls.
Great. Ismail, anything to add there?
No, I'm just adding to Parks that I think is a great point he brought up. I was thinking about like individuals in specific communities, but like I wasn't even thinking about like the groups and businesses that service them to get them to and about. So like Ride Connect and ride sharing stuff. So yeah, I think it's a great point that Park brought up. So
Great. So just to repeat back what I'm hearing, it sounds like there's sort of two things. We're talking about like engaging with actual communities, not just the groups that serve them, but then also in specific instances, like with the disability community, engaging with folks like Uber and Lyft or other resources that they might use is another important factor. Am I seeing head nods?
Chelsea,
Yes.
can you add in there ride share services for the disabled? Not just the Uber and Lyft drivers, but a little bit more targeted too. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for flagging that, Lucinda. Are there any other groups, especially considering sort of what we heard from Hannah and Ping and how we work with the community engagement liaisons? Are there any other folks that you think we might be missing with our engagement that we want to make sure we're reaching?
I have one that just kind of popped into my head right now, and I'm just thinking like workforce development groups. And I don't know, but I'm just thinking like, and then the individuals they represent as they're gaining skills, getting the workforce, whatever it is, a trade, a school, whatever. I don't know if it's, you get to connect with them or their groups, because they're the ones that are gonna, be traveling for work throughout the region. And so I'm just another group that kind of popped into my head. So, but.
Ismail, that's a great one, because one of the biggest groups that are actually doing the work on training folks are the community colleges. And so I think with the students and going to and from different community colleges, whether it's Chemeketa or PCC, whichever, I think that would be another group to really engage with, both the students and the administration.
Any other thoughts to add on this one before we move down to the last bit of this question? Okay. And again, we can always jump back up to objectives or audiences as we're chatting. So this is all about tools. So did we use the right tools to reach those folks and meet those objectives? If the answer is no, what did we miss? So this is pulled from the slides. There's also a whole list of tools in that engagement period method summary that's in your materials packet. It's a fairly short document that summarizes what's in the I-205 plan to sort of help get through that. But we talked about a lot of those in the presentation: online open house survey, things like ads, the community engagement liaisons, and all the multilingual engagement we did, and some things that we did specifically during COVID-19. So really just wanting to think about like, how do we reach those folks, and any thoughts that you have there. And I'm going to start with Ismail because I know you have to bounce in 2 minutes.
Thank you. I didn't even notice the time. Only question I have is kind of like the language radios. Were those just advertisements or were those like interviews? And if it's just advertising, maybe like interviews would be good because then like the host, whoever, could ask the liaison questions that maybe the larger community would be wondering rather than just like an ad. And thank you for that. I'm actually going to hop off right now. So
Okay, thank you so much. Now that we have lost Izzy, I'm assuming Izzy's question was sort of based around like, yes, the ads, some of the ads just went out in a specific language, and then the community engagement liaisons, as Hannah and Ping described, they often did like direct phone calls, so that can sort of vary, but those are different tools that we use there.
They also did not just radio ads, but literally they did some TV to answer questions about the program too.
Thanks, Lucinda.
Sure.
Park, James, Jermaine, thoughts on tools to reach folks?
We were talking about timelines before, and I think it was good that we got out to the community and started educating early. It was probably the most important part now. But I think we'll need to go back when we have more of those factual information, and then we can hopefully make up some of what we lost in the in-person meetings and workshops and things where groups can get together and discuss these topics where there's more of a chance for give and take.
I would agree with Park as well. Like, I think COVID was such a difficult time and most people are just like zoomed out. I think you can't really get all the engagement that you possibly can get. So if we can possibly like look at the facts and then take it to the community, if we ever can meet back together in 2021, I think we'll get more participation.
Okay.
Yeah, only thing I would say is I think it'd be good to see more spending on spending with the community groups on whatever mechanisms they have to talk to their people, whether it's sponsoring events or whether it's buying space on their websites or whatever, because it's like, I think with the community group, being able to do this type of capture some of that spend is going to help them in sharing their message in general. And so being a supporter of that, I think would be one way to get deeper.
Great. So we're almost at time for this question. I just want to see if there's any other thoughts about any of the three things that we already discussed. And sort of to summarize what we were hearing around COVID was difficult, and I guess a question, are there some things we did in COVID that you'd see successful even if it wasn't COVID times, or things that you'd suggest that we keep doing even if they were all online? And then it does sound like you're suggesting sort of lots of in-person when that's possible. Seeing nods. Okay, I'm going to take us down to the next question, and we might bounce up and down a little bit because the next question sort of draws directly from this question. So, did we have the right indicators to measure success? If not, how do we measure engagement and ensure we have equitable processes that lead to equitable outcomes? So these touch on some of the things that Anne mentioned in her presentation. There was that little table that had the things that we met and we didn't meet, and some things that we met in some places and not others. And then there's a few more of these pulled from the public involvement plan as well. That's sort of not just for the specific engagement period, but for the whole project, the whole program overall. Any initial thoughts on indicators of success?
to me, that's way too big of a question to ask here, because if I were going to look at that, I would look at like, what are my goals? What's my vision with the project? And I would look at how I've lined those questions up so that they would try and get at the root decision-making for that project. I mean, there's so many different things, measures that you have here. I mean, I have no idea what rationale went into making those questions, because the questions that I make, I would line up with talking to a data point that I would try and feed with the results from that. And so I just don't know what rigor went into making this survey or these different measures.
It's a great question. And they do in the plan, they sort of line up with the objectives that we talked about earlier, but it is a very big question. This is sort of the question that's gonna lead to developing the measures that y'all will be talking about after this meeting and in February. But I guess to turn that question around, are there specific things that you would see as necessary to lead to equitable outcomes? You or you, the group.
Yeah.
I think, like James said earlier, I think you gotta go a little deeper in the community to get more input, because I think some of the people to participate in this, right? Like, I think that's one of the portions I will have.
It's too bad I only heard like every third word.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna repeat what you said, Jermaine, and you can give me a thumbs up if that's accurate, but I think you were saying we need to look deeper into the community just to get more input, specifically on how to measure success or just generally. Oh, did we lose you, Jermaine?
Yes, generally. Can you guys hear me now? Hello?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Park, any thoughts from you?
Just that in the future, when we can have the in-person meetings, there can be some measures evaluating those in-person meetings.
Okay. Any specific thoughts about what types of measures, like number of people attending or quality of comments, or what thoughts do you have around that?
Well, I'm thinking it could be broken down into some of the things. Do people support the toll amounts that are being suggested? Do people support the where the money is going to be spent? Do people support the increases in alternative transportation options? There's a lot of specifics. Once we get to talking about more specifics, then you can evaluate what people think about those specific alternatives.
I guess that's sort of moving more into the outcomes, and we're sort of trying to focus on the process right now. That's totally a great suggestion, and it totally makes sense to measure sort of in-person engagement, but wanting to think more about the engagement itself and the process equity around that. Like, how do we do equitable
I got an idea,
engagement?
Chelsea.
Sorry?
I have an idea.
Great.
What I do on any of your group engagements, whether it's virtual or not, at the end of the engagement, I would ask each participant, you know, much like they do when you're at like the airport or wherever, when you're leaving Adidas, and it has like the smiley faces, and all you got to do is you push which smiley face are you feeling like, right? And if you did that at the beginning of the engagement and you collected at the end of the engagement, then you'd have an idea of was that engagement, what kind of impact potentially that had on the person after the said engagement? And if you did that on everything, then you'd have a consistent measure, at least of feeling, you know, because it's hard to get specifics down to demographic, you know, just down to very specific things when you want to do survey work and you want to try and turn that information into action. That's tough.
That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing. Any thoughts from Jermaine or Perk?
Good.
Oh,
I
Jermaine.
had one quick question.
Oh, go ahead, Lucinda.
I just wanted to go a little bit deeper on the last one. So the smiley faces, great idea. Question about when you're doing it virtually, how do you see that working? Because you know how people don't want to spend a lot of time online. So if they show up, it's like, they could show up at the beginning, but at the end, they're like, I just want to do whatever I have to do and be done. Do you see some other ways we could do that, where we could garner that information after they've been on our website or after they've, you know, done a webinar with us?
Well, I mean, like, I think like we're, you know, half a step away from the technology that on these electronic calls where we're going to have more anonymous, better communication than just a chat room. And I think that's going to change relatively quickly so that you're going to be able to do anonymous surveying and closer interaction. So from a technology standpoint, I think that that's going to be there sooner than later. That second part to your question, it's escaping me right now. I can't remember the second part here.
No, it's okay, because you answered kind of what I was after. What happens when you're doing this virtually, and how do you garner those comments or, you know, satisfaction? Basically, that's what it is. It's a satisfaction survey on my way out, and it's an acknowledgement on my way in.
Yep.
Thank you.
I won't do satisfaction surveys anymore because there's just a huge, anytime I buy anything or I go anywhere, I get an email asking me, unless they say, we've got 2 questions and it'll take you 30 seconds.
Yep.
Or less.
I understand. And you know, that might be something too, where it comes after the fact. So maybe it's not right after the engagement, but if you left your email, we send an email after the fact.
No, I wouldn't do email. I would have it exactly right when they're about to hang up. Boom, can you give us, not even just, how are you feeling on this? Boom, push the button. It's not even 30 seconds. There's no questions. It's just hit the smiley face and boom, that's part of your leaving the electronic group.
Ah, okay.
I was going to ask a very similar question, Lucinda. So we did send a follow-up survey afterwards. So not immediately afterwards, like you're suggesting, James, but after the close of the period, we sent an email out, and not nearly as many people took it as provided feedback in the survey. But it was much longer, so not your short survey, Park.
I was going to say it was really long.
But I'm curious your thoughts on how, if that still is a good thing to do, following if we included something like that shorter version as well.
Well, my thinking is it's like the shorter survey that you want to send on an email afterward, that has much more, you're looking to try and see if people understood the content, and you're trying, if you're trying to capture on a survey like that, what are people's feelings, that's very difficult. But trying to say if people ascertain they understood the content, they liked the content, or what have you, I mean, that's just talking to their level of participation. And so if you have a deeper conversation on, hey, if we're providing good content and people are coming to these things and they're feeling good about what they're getting and they're understanding the content, you know, you're moving the needle.
Right.
So I think what we were after was, it's almost like an afterthought. Now that you took the survey's over, what did you feel about that engagement?
Yeah.
And not so singular about how you took the survey and how that felt coming out of it. So I get you. So I'm sure Emily's taking notes on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we still have a few more minutes on this question and sort of focusing on the engagement process and the measures for that. So one of our measures was around satisfaction, which, as you noted, James, we measured long after people took the survey, not right away. Are there other measures here that sort of stick out to you that feel like they might be something we should dig more into, or things that we should add?
Yeah, here's something, where you say at least 3 ethnic media outlets published factual articles. I mean, just having that, if you're counting that as success, that shows you that your engagement with those outlets is poor, that you're only able to get 3. And 3 is the hurdle. And it's like, I don't know what that hurdle might be, but it should be like, hey, that's the normal flow. Now, I know that a lot of places transportation isn't the top of their editorial list, but I'm just saying, it's like, that to me, that's an abominable number. I mean, there's more ethnic groups than 3.
What would you suggest? So you're thinking there should be like one for each ethnic group in the demographic area, or more?
No, I would talk more about how, how are your messages showing up on those different media sources, right? You do a press release, for example, you measure how successful was that press release by what are the legs. And so when you say, hey, at these media sources, I mean, there's difference from buying ads. I think you need to buy ads. But I'm saying, when you want to start talking about media sources, how many media sources are covering what we're saying? And are they covering it in a positive or a negative way? I mean, that's down the road. But to say, oh, I saw it in 3 ethnic outlets, that's like pathetic.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm starting to be the person in the background asking the next question. Sorry about that. But asking the next question, that's me. So my question there is, I think that's geared towards how many outlets are picking up the story, not just the press release, because we do that, that's kind of an automatic almost, but how engaging is what we're doing literally to those communities and the public, where they pick it up and put it in the paper. And, it's kind of like we did one last Friday on this report that you guys are looking at now. And I seen it today in Transport News or somewhere. It's gotten picked up by a lot of different outlets. But the work we were doing, I noticed it didn't get picked up until we provided the report. Like, nobody's picking up, we're doing a survey. People are now picking up the results of what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's providing the content that means something to their audience. And so then if you sharpen your pencil, so to speak, on the content that you're sending out there, more people will pick it up.
That's good.
Any other thoughts on that piece, Park or Jermaine?
I guess when it comes to media, I just think well, at least know for speaking kind of like, how does this affect me, right? Like, that's gonna address a lot of things. How does this affect me? Picks up a lot of people paying more attention, right? Because if you just put this out there and you're not in transportation, I'm not picking that up. But if you start to tell me how this is gonna affect me, then I'm gonna start paying attention to this, right? So we gotta target that people. Like, this is about to affect some people. So getting into that position will make a lot more people be aware and want to be part of it or want to listen to the survey or take the survey. So trying to get that, how it affects me, I think is key.
Yeah, and I would second that, Jermaine. You know, that goes right along with making the stuff so it's like readable, you know, and Jermaine drives it even further home by like, make the information talk to me. And I think that's where a lot of people, this doesn't talk to me. You know, it's like the public transportation system, it just happens. It doesn't really matter what I think about it, you know, and so you got to bring it to life.
So I think we set our bar pretty low, because that I think we set 3, and I know we did TV, which generated a lot more media than that. So I think that we set our bar really low, and that I would agree with you. If it's something that affects people, more people want to know about that. So
And I'm also,
I would note, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, Lucinda, finish your thought.
I would note that I would put one note that the bar might be too low. You're setting your expectations pretty low. We exceeded that for sure.
And I also wanted to flag sort of what you all have been highlighting around like the level and detail of information and how engaging the information itself is. We have this measurement here, limited number of requests for additional information. So that's one way to measure the quality of the information, and how well majority of comments are well informed and within the project scope. So those two sort of try to get at that. Are there specific measures? I'm specifically thinking around how, I feel like engaging is not the right word, but like how engrossed people are in the content. Is there a measure around that I'm hearing from what you all are saying? No? Okay. Are these the right measures to measure that type of engagement and making sure that the information is quality and clear and contains the right amount of detail, or do we need to modify these in some way?
No, I think that limited number of requests for additional information, I mean, I'm very transparent and I hate to break it to it, but that's self-serving. It's like, look, we did nothing and no one asked for any additional information, so therefore we're successful.
And thanks for sharing that. That one, people did, so we were not successful on that one. Do you think there's a better way to word that to get it sort of?
I'm just saying, it's like, it doesn't capture your engagement. You could have been 100%, you know, you're saying, well, since no one asked for information, that means people are getting our message. And I'd have to really dive into it to try and think about what sort of measure would actually give me a question that people could answer very quickly, that would talk to whether they actually understood the information that was just sent to them. I can't just come up with that off the cuff. I mean, I'd have to really think about it. That's part of what I'm saying, is like, there needs to be more in-depth study of the question and measures of what you're trying to do.
I would totally agree with that.
Okay. So we only have a couple more minutes before we go back. Happy to talk about any of the other pieces as they come up, but I wanted to move down to the last question, just to make sure we had a few minutes on that. Which is, how will you support future engagement? Part of the purpose of the Equity and Mobility Advisory Committee includes the statement about the committee supporting the implementation of the Equitable Engagement Plan. And then it provides some examples, like by hosting or co-hosting meetings, events, and or other activities as determined by the engagement plan. That could look like many things, especially during this time of COVID. So we're just curious to hear your thoughts about how you could support that engagement, or if other ideas pop up during this conversation, we can add them to other sections as well.
I like to what James said earlier about like helping organization advertise on their website and all that kind of stuff. I think that's huge. How do you get the message deeper into the community? Because some of our organizations got limited resources, so that could happen. I think that will help more people be engaged.
Okay.
And co-hosting an event, if we ever get into person to person again, I think this will totally be a different kind of thing, because we do like a Juneteenth out in Gresham where we pull like 3,000 people on a Wednesday. So I know in person that we did the first Juneteenth last year. We did 3,000 people out in Gresham. I know that would work. So figuring out ways like virtual is going to limit untech savvy people. That's just how that's going to go, because there's too much going on for those people who doesn't have it, because they're doing kids, they're doing life, they're doing everything. So virtual unlimited untech savvy people. But if we ever get back to person, I think you're going to see the community want to be a part of this. And we just need to learn how to support that cause.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm also seeing a potential back in our question 1. We don't have this up there specifically, but untax savvy people may be a group of people that we need to make sure that we're reaching. Could you add that up at the top too, Emily? Thanks. Any other thoughts on how you as EMAC members could help with future engagement?
Well, I know for me, I'm sorry, Park, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Park.
I would like to attend meetings when we get to having face-to-face meetings after the coronavirus.
Fingers crossed.
I'm sorry, what was that, James?
I said fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things, because I know that a bunch of materials went out to try and rally people to take the survey. And so I did that. I reached out to different folks and said, hey, here's these survey materials, circulate this. Well, the challenge I have is like, one, it was kind of like late in the show, and I know we were just getting started, but it really helps to inform that longer relationship. And so like, if I'm going to reach out to, a community leader, an organization, or people I know, it's great to get the email materials, but like the community liaison, if I'm like, hey, you know what, let me include community liaison person B, so then they can kind of take up the admin, so that they can be the one that's moving the conversation or doing the follow-up. Because for me personally, it's like, oh my God, I know I just sent you this text message, or I just sent this, and now you're asking like questions of me. And it's like, I'm not really prepared to answer all those questions. And so if I had known that there was community liaison people that I could partner with on reaching out, that would be very helpful.
I think James hit that right on the head. Like, yes, that was huge what he just said. Because you got to have because we have so many other things moving, trying to save the community in different ways. Like our community is struggling with COVID. So we're trying to save COVID. And then on top of that, we want to do transportation. Like people's lives are upside down right now. So having, I think, like you said, having administrative people to help with this, and then let some of us just focus on that piece would be huge.
Cool.
Thank you so much. We are supposed to be back in the main room. So if you go back to the email, you should use the link, same link that you used to join the first time. I'm going to stop sharing this, and thank you all for the great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.